Welcome to the Foreign Report, your weekly foreign policy show that gives you the gory details of geopolitics with, I don't know if there's going to be any laughs along the way, but that's our goal. I'm Sina Ghaznavi, your foreign policy curious host. With us is, in the virtual studio, is guest host, comedian, director, Columbia Journalism School grad, Travis Irvine, and our supreme leader, Ayatollah Marcus Parks.
Ayatollah Asahola, am I right? Am I right?
Hey.
Hi. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been many years since I've been able to do a politics show. Many, many years. So I'm here, man. I'm back in the space. I'm fucking flexing.
Well, you picked a light news week. You picked a light news day, Liberation Day. Nothing happening here. I don't know what we're going to possibly talk about.
I have no clue. My God, it's just I remember back when I was doing a politics show, you know what we talked about?
What was the craziest thing?
Thaddeus McCotter. It's
Wow.
like baby Michelle Bachmann said something wacky this week.
Oh, boy.
Like, that was the
Oh, my
worst
gosh.
we had to deal with.
She wasn't the one that believed in witches, right? That was another one?
No, that was a different one. That was Christine. What? I can't remember I can't remember her name exactly.
They all look
but,
the same to me.
Yeah.
That is it's so great to have you here. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We're not going to be able to get to everything on this rundown today. As always, if you have a question, by the way, theforeignreportlpn@gmail.com. We were texting and chit-chatting before the show about this time that we're in and this flood the zone strategy that's been employed since Trump has taken office. And part of that is a lot of these executive orders.
Oh, it's a huge part of it.
And I was looking at, I was like, how many executive orders? And I went to the Federal Registry, and I was like, let's look at all of these. And I don't even know if my calculations were right, but I looked at the first one. And the first executive order he signed was ending the weaponization of the federal government.
Yes.
And then that was the title. And then he proceeded to weaponize the federal government with 101 executive orders.
Whoa!
I think he's at 102 now. And here we sit. It's Wednesday, April 2nd, as Trump put it, Liberation Day, which is going to go down in a blue box in my son's history ebook, I'm sure. If there's a school left that can afford an ebook, who knows? They're going to be like, this was a stupid thing, in a little blue side box. Marcus,
that just might be the heading under this entire period of this was a stupid thing. Let's get through it. And then let's maybe move on to, when everyone finally got their collective minds together again in maybe 6 or 8 years.
Yeah, it might take that long.
It really might.
What's your kind of feeling about how this originated, how it's going right now, the flooding the zone?
Well, I mean, it's a Steve Bannon technique, flooding the zone with shit. That is his that's his term for what Trump has been doing, is flooding the zone with shit. We are living in this moment in Steve Bannon's world. Like, we have, Steve Bannon created a world underneath us that we did not even know that he was creating. And what's interesting about it, I guess, to me, is that he is created this world in the exact same space that we've created our world, in the world of podcasts. People aren't really, and I think Democrats especially, just don't have any idea how far so much of America has moved beyond the 20th century and moved beyond even 4 years ago, moved beyond mainstream media, moved beyond all of these things that we took for granted for so long. Because Steve Bannon, he's been doing his podcast for, God, I don't even know how long now, 5, 6, 7 years, long time. Steve Bannon records for 4 hours a day, every single day. Records his podcast.
Every day? That's longer than Rush Limbaugh would record.
Yes, and he
would broadcast.
And Steve Bannon also, he has his basement studio in his home. He speaks directly to his listenership, his listener base.
Yeah, he goes right down the barrel,
which is quite large. And he has, he has people coming from Congress. He's in D.C. He has people coming from Congress over to his house. They talk. Steve Bannon gives the links for donations. He tells his people, Like, he takes the whole idea that, Limbaugh and O'Reilly and, these old school guys that, we used to shiver in our boots about, he takes it to the next level. Like, he really took a lot of notes from the hardcore right-wing sphere, like the really hardcore, I'm talking like gun show right-wing sphere, and he scares people. And he not only scares people, but he also makes them feel like, because you're listening to my show, you're a patriot. Because you're listening to my show, you are taking the fight to them, and you can take the fight to them if only you give money to this.
Oh my God!
cause.
I started reaching into my pocket to give you money
I tell
just
you
by
that-
hearing you say these words.
It's a hell of a lot more effective than sending me 20 goddamn text messages a day saying I'm from the Democratic Party and I am shattered right now. I am shattered because I haven't met my fundraising goal and I'm afraid it was going to happen. And Steve Bannon, these people on the right, what the Democrats don't understand is they're sending all these fucking text messages. The right has this small army of people like Steve Bannon, people like Charlie Kirk that are doing their job for them. Like, they've got this whole ecosystem set up to take over. And the Democrats are sending text messages. They have no idea how to combat the Steve Bannon model.
There was a time when the Democratic Party was culturally united.
Yeah.
And that's when you got, I think, movements that were united. The Obama movement, right? Were united
long time ago.
Centuries ago.
Yeah.
But it was able to do that. What I'm hearing from you is that it seems like the right has now done that. They are now culturally aligned.
Oh, yeah.
And they are able to amplify each other without having necessarily one person that says, do this, do that, do this.
Yeah, and they're not just culturally aligned. Like they're able to, I guess, put aside their differences in ways that the left really isn't. Because, one of the things that people have been saying for the last couple of months is that there's going to be this big divorce happening, and there's the cracks. The populist right-wing Bannon wing of the Republican Party and the techno-fascist wing that is, represented by people like Elon Musk. Is like, these people eventually they're gonna butt heads, and this whole thing's gonna fall apart. No, that's not happening.
Agreed.
It is not happening at all. I think I read something in the Atlantic about this yesterday. Is that people are they're figuring it out.
Chuck Schumer said this on The Daily in his interview. We played clips of that last episode, or 2 episodes ago, where he said, we're going to wait until his approval rating is below 40%.
For what?
And then we're going to really be able to get the Republicans to work with them. I don't think so. And you know how I'm glad you brought this up, because instead of waterboarding myself last weekend, I listened to Gavin Newsom interview Steve Bannon. and so that was that. I won't make that mistake again. And it was incredibly awful to see, first of all, Gavin Newsom roll out the red carpet for this guy.
Jesus.
Thanks for coming on in the spirit of discussion and debate. We all love America. And Steve Bannon just ran train on Gavin Newsom the entire time. He dominated, and I'll tell you what else the right has done, and I'm sure you feel this as well. He talks about working Americans in the way that 90s Democrats talked about working Americans.
Yeah.
The left has completely lost the plot to be able to talk. The whole time I'm thinking, people are going to not know who Steve Bannon is before they listen to this podcast. And now they're going to know who he is and think he's kind of reasonable.
Yeah. He does. Yeah, they have that ability, and Steve Bannon especially has that ability to sound reasonable at times, and he's got that saltiness to him that is very popular in America right now. He's got this irreverence that people really like, and Steve Bannon over the years has figured out how to plug in to America, to plug into like the worst impulses of America. Like he knows what sort of red meat Americans want to chew on. And he knows that it's bad for us, and he knows that that red meat is going to kill this country. He knows it, but he can't help himself.
And it's amazing how he's been able to say
because it gives him power, and it gives him influence, and that's what he's addicted to. That's what they're all addicted to. And
it's amazing that he's also been able to say, hey, our soft power is what is actually weakening America all the time. And this is where you get all of these huge cuts. This is where you get people complaining about our soft power and our use of USAID. And it's funny how people say, like, we're wasting money on giving these other countries money, when in reality, there are other problems with USAID that they don't talk about. But the real great part about USAID and all these other soft power moves was that it was a way of complementing or, supplementing the way we have destroyed much of the world through the war on terror and become the police force of the entire world. And we also say, hey, you know what? We'll save 3/4 of Africa from HIV and AIDS. We'll supply that. If you need TB inoculations, we'll be able to help with that, so that people can actually see that there is a conflict in the American experience, but that there's somewhat of a net positive for the world. And what Steve Bannon's been able to say is, no. Why is there a net positive for the world from America? We shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be a net positive for only Americans. When in reality, the only reason we're a net positive for Americans is because of all the global alliances we actually have.
That's one of the things that drives me nuts about the modern Republican Party, is because they understand. The reason why they're in power is because they understand how the world works when it comes to social media, when it comes to, just the visceral reactions that people have. It's partly why, right-wing politics around the world, why right-wing populism has taken on, is because, social media is primed for right-wing populism. It's primed to make people angry. It's primed to pull up the most horrible, nativist, paranoid part of yourself and bring it to the forefront and make you believe that that's the way that you're supposed to act.
Whoever thought we would start with cat memes and then we would end up with right-wing global populism?
No.
So what the fuck happened, guys? Everything was so chill.
It was.
Funny videos. We had Vines, you know what I mean? And then it spun out of control. We say this on the show before, facts win arguments. Passion wins elections.
Yes.
And social media drives passion. And it's crazy. Also, you said, the right wing and the right understands how social media works. Nothing is more depressing than for me to hear that like the right knows technology better than the left.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying.
Well, this all taps in exactly what Marcus and I couldn't stop talking about at his Super Bowl party a few months ago. And that is the whole Steve Bannon flood the zone technique. And because keep in mind, Steve Bannon came from media and data. And that's a very toxic combination for a very toxic man. I mean, he looks like if syphilis was a person wearing 3 collared shirts. But his mind understands how the media works. 3 things a day. Give the media 3 bonkers things a day to flood the zone so they can't talk about anything else. You're setting the narrative. And because he's a data guy, he knows that's exactly what not just right-wing America, but he started to pull independent, moderate America towards that edge as well.
And the flooding the zone thing, especially with these executive orders, like Trump put out the birthright citizenship is no longer, right? He put out that executive order, which is just couldn't be more flying in the face of the 14th Amendment. And it's crazy to me because, so here's this thing I've been trying to grapple with in my brain, is that our most important right is not the freedom of speech or the freedom of religion or the freedom of press. It's the right to due process to protect those freedoms. And so when we're the reserve currency of the world, it's not because we have the biggest military. We've had the biggest military since World War II. We dropped bombs and that bought us some time, but the reserve currency is based on trust. And what do people trust in? They trust that we will adjudicate a dispute fairly, that both sides will be able to air their grievances, that there will be a proper process in which these rights are figured out, and that there will be an equitable, just solution at the end. And the global economy invests money here because, hey, we trust that this happens. And the other part of that is everyone in the government of the United States is supposed to know that this process is long and boring, and that you shouldn't take advantage of that process or fuck with that process, because if you do, that erodes trust in all these public institutions. And what do we have here right now? People destroying the process.
Yeah. Not only destroying the process, but, you know, and I think in the interest of flooding the zone with shit, you know, this whole third term thing, you know, which that is a huge part of America's process, and a huge part of like our, you know, one of the bedrocks of our, you know, civilization in America is, you know, the peaceful transfer of power. But of course, like, you know, Trump knows he's not going to do a third term. He's not going to survive long enough to have a third term. We all know it. Everybody knows it. And yet we're talking about him. Not only are we talking about him floating the idea of a third term, but we're talking about it again when he refuses to answer whether or not he's going to do it. We talk about it again when another reporter asks him about it. And we talk about it again and again and again and again. And we're not talking about all of the other nefarious
100.
shit that's going on. We're not talking about we're talking more about the, you know, the third term bullshit than, you know, people were talking about Elon Musk throwing money into that, you know, judicial race in Wisconsin, which, you know, thankfully, you know, played out.
Which was a Hatch Act violation, by the way.
Oh,
where
huge.
They're just paying people for their votes.
Yeah, huge. You know,
And then
it's a
the
felony.
transportation road rules Secretary of Transportation guy was out there like campaigning for Elon Musk. Like, you can't. This is not. We have we have rules, people.
We do. And that's, I think, why so many people in America are nervous right now, and why so many people around the world are nervous, because, as you said, you know, people, you know, that we are the reserve currency because people trust us, and we can't even trust ourselves right now. We don't even know. We have no clue what's going to happen. I mean, right now we're recording this at 10:26 a.m. PST. The Liberation Day has not even begun yet.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know what's going to happen with, you know, by the time this airs, of course, the tariffs will be out and everyone will, you know, the stock market will have crashed even fucking further. But just nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what we're going to do next, you know, or what this government is going to do next, or what they're not going to do next.
Well, speaking of what's going to happen next, the Dems aren't doing anything.
Nothing.
But Cory Booker just did 25 hours of a filibuster. So what's your take on this? He broke the record.
Sure. Fine.
Which is, okay, so there's one part at least on that. Well, at least breaking the record.
Yeah,
that
broke Strom Thurmond's old record.
Strom Thurmond.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you're going to wipe somebody from the history books, it's good that it's a Dixiecrat segregationalist, Strom Thurmond.
Sure, but this is the Democrats all over. It's symbolic. And that's
Yes.
great. Like, it's great that it's very symbolic that, you know, Cory Booker goes up and he breaks Strom Thurmond's, you know, long-held record, because Strom Thurmond was going up to, you know, he was filibustering against the fucking Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it is nice and symbolic, but that's all it is. It's nice and symbolic. I want to ask the Democrats the same question that my therapist asks me every week. What's your strategy?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I see the problem, because that's what Cory Booker did. Is he went up and he talked about all the problems. He talked about all the ways that Donald Trump is flying in the face of convention and flying in the face of the rule of law, and, you know, and how reckless he is. And so, like, okay, great. You've told me the problem. I, by the way, already knew what the problem was, but thanks for telling me again.
Did you know the problem? Did you need 23 hours or 24 hours and 99 minutes, 59 minutes?
25 hours, yeah.
25 hours. Listen, but
what's your strategy? What's your plan?
Though, is that my hope, and I agree with you 100%. I'm just, you know, optimistic. Sorry. What just happened? I'm optimistic. Oh, God. I feel sick. So I'm optimistic because I think about it. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I went to a lot of Penguins games. Kevin Stevens would come out sometimes, and they wanted to change the energy on ice. Someone like Kevin Stevens would come and throw a punch. He'd start a fight. He'd beat the hell out of somebody. Or Francois Leroux, for the hockey fans out there, he was great. He just beat the hell out of somebody.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, is how we could baby chase it. This is like the Senate equivalent of throwing a punch, where you basically stop everything else from happening and you just talk for 25 hours. Now, to your point, Marcus, I don't know what the strategy is.
For me, this doesn't feel like the equivalent of a punch. For me, this feels like the equivalent of having all of the fans chant all at once from the sidelines in the hopes that maybe it will throw them off their game. Or it's
so
not...
Cory Booker's the organist.
Yeah.
Charge! Okay, there we go. I like that. I like that.
It feels nice, it makes it it gets the crowd fired up, maybe, but it has no fucking bearing on what actually happens on the ice. It's not like the Democrats still have not thrown a punch. They haven't. For me, the Democrats haven't even figured out how to make a fucking fist yet. The Democrats have done nothing in the last decade, or at least since they fucked over Bernie, that has made me feel anything. Like, the Democrats don't make me feel anything at all, and that's what the Republicans are so good at, is that the Republicans make me feel a lot of things.
You're catching a lot of feels. The Republicans.
And they make their base feel so, like, they make their base excited. Like you said, it's passion. Like they know how to engender passion. And I tuned to the Cory Booker thing yesterday out of curiosity, hoping for a little bit of passion, hoping for a little bit of inspiration. And what I got was, so I was at the movie theater, and my mom said, "You've got to take your dad to the bathroom."
Oh, boy.
And then he told this wild-eyed story about him taking his dad to the urinal in the movie theater and then getting recognized as Cory Booker while he's unzipping his dad's pants.
Marcus, you got to work the material out, okay? You got to work the bits out. You can't bring all your A material to a 25-hour show.
I know. I understand. But
I'm not in at the worst time.
I know, but I'm not the only person who just popped in to see, okay, what is this thing all about? What's this guy doing? And that's the thing, is that you can't just talk for 25 hours. Like, you can't just free associate and for 25 hours and expect it to be some sort of rallying cry. There's no focus here. Like, it's the opposite of focus. It's 25 hours of scatting.
Yeah, if he really wants to do something, he could truck stick Elon Musk through a glass door, and I would think that would do a lot more. I do think also charge. I do think also that Cory Booker did more for veganism than he did for the Democratic Party, because that man's a vegan, and I'll tell you what, athletes are vegans. If you're a high performance athlete, you're a vegan. And frankly, my carb-based diet, I would have been like, I need a sandwich. 90 minutes maybe? I don't know. Travis?
Yeah, I'll just say, back to Marcus's earlier comment about the Democrats being very good at texting, I received at least 25 texts while Cory Booker was talking for the 25 hours, so at least one text per hour. And right on cue, while we've been on, I got another one. Cory Booker, whoa, look at him go. Send us money.
Yeah.
Look at that cute wallpaper Travis has of a kitty cat on his phone. For the podcast listeners, you should just.
That's how you know. Hey, I'm a Democrat. Come on, folks.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hit some headlines and briefly talk about some tariffs, talk about some other big stories that are happening around the world. I'm Sina Ghaznavi, Marcus Parks, Travis Irvine in the virtual studio. This is the Foreign Report. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Foreign Report. I'm Sina Ghaznavi. Joining us in the IRL studio is Marcus Parks from Last Podcast to the Left. You know him. I don't need to introduce him. What are we talking about here? Marcus Parks. He's the Marcus Parks.
Hi.
Travis Irvine in the virtual studio. Marcus, I'm happy you came to the show. I know the Foreign Report really carries the network right now, so people should really check out Last Podcast to the Left.
Please, we could use the numbers. Use the views.
I know the ambassadors that are listening to the show probably don't know what we're talking about, but let's go on over. They need to know this network doesn't run on one show. Come on. Anyways, let's talk about some headlines.
Oh, and also don't forget to go listen to No Dogs in Space as well.
No Dogs in Space, absolutely.
For those of you who are politically minded, I would recommend listening to our Dead Kennedy series.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Ooh, yeah.
No Dogs in Space. You do that with your wife, Carolina?
That's
Hidalgo?
right, Carolina Hidalgo.
Amazing. So, tariffs. It's tariff day. It's crazy. I don't want to talk too much about tariffs because we don't know how it's going to go, really, and what the reaction is going to be. We're going to do a little bit more on it next week. But I just wanted to speak like at a high level about tariffs and this just overall concept of tariffs. And we've talked about that on the show before. If you guys know, look up Oren Cass. He's this conservative economist that basically J.D. Vance and all these guys listen to. He is another one of these guys that's been able to take back the conversation to the working class America and saying we're standing up for working people. I wear my Bernie hat on calls now as the I told you so hat because Bernie was for some tariffs.
Yeah.
And the way you install tariffs is you put them in and then you don't, and you say, I'm going to put a tariff on, and then you don't mess around. You don't use it as a bargaining chip. You say, this is what we're doing. And the concept that they're saying is that American manufacturing will come back. Short-term pain, long-term gain. I don't think that they understand how much short-term pain really will happen.
Well, kind of goes back to my earlier point of why the Republican Party infuriates me so much is that they understand social media, but they don't understand globalization. They don't understand geopolitics, or at least it seems like either they don't understand or they're just willfully ignorant and they just don't want to understand because everything is so interlocked these days. Like the idea of everyone knows, the car tariff on the 25%, is it 20%? 25%, tariff on foreign cars. And they say, Trump says, I don't care if it raises prices because it's going to bring manufacturing back to America. But cars, there's a lot of pieces in a car.
Oh yeah,
it's not just it's not like the days of Detroit where you're just putting a bunch of hunks of metal and rubber together. Cars today are extraordinarily complex machines, and a lot of those parts within those cars, even the ones made in America, those parts come from overseas. Parts that will be subject to the tariffs, and therefore it is going to raise prices. Overall, it's going to raise prices over time. Of course, it's going to raise prices over time. They don't want to look at that. They don't want to. They just don't want to see the connection between what they're doing here and what's happening overseas and how all of it fits together. They just don't see how all of it fits together.
Let me do you one better, Marcus Parks. Let's say you love tariffs. Let's say you love this whole car tariff thing. Let's say you're so excited for the short-term pain and the long-term gain that manufacturing does come back to America. Here's the problem, folks. Is it going to be Frank welding a car door to a chassis?
No.
It's going to be Hal 3000, the automated robot that puts the fucking car together. Yeah. You know what Frank's going to be doing? Shining Hal 3000. He's going to be polishing Hal. He's going to be scrubbing Hal robot's balls. I don't know if they have balls, but they probably will. He's going to be shining that robot and being like, oh, we got to oil the gears on the robot again. This reminds me of the Carrier plan. Remember when he came in with Pence in Indiana in the first term? They went into Indiana and said, we're going to save the Carrier plant. Mm-hmm. And what happened? They kept them from moving everyone to Mexico, okay? But what did they do? They built a plant, and it was all robots.
Yeah.
It was all robots. Like, you are fucked this way. You are going to be fucked that way. I'm trying not to curse so much on the show, Marcus, so we don't get an explicit rating.
I understand.
But it's Liberation Day.
It's hard.
I mean, and that's the other thing too, is that not only are we going to have these entire factories run by robots, they're going to be run very badly because the United States is starting to experience an extreme brain drain right now.
Oh yeah,
like all of these other countries, these European countries are setting aside massive. I think it's Germany and France, and setting aside massive amounts of money for all of the incredibly intelligent people here in America that are now, taking a look at a map and seeing like where else can I go, because I don't want to stick around here anymore, because a lot of these people are, I think it's something like 40% of our Actually, let me take that back because I don't know the stat and I don't want to quote it wrong. But it's a large percentage of the people in this country who are awarded PhDs are immigrants. A very, very large percentage. And immigrants in this country are not feeling very welcome at the moment. And a lot of them are planning to move elsewhere. So we're not going to have anybody that's smart enough to maintain the fucking robots.
They dealt with Trump's first term. Those same immigrants dealt with Trump's first term. And the problem is that we violated due process so much that they're like, well, I'm actually not safe.
Right. Well, back to the tariffs again. I mean, you guys are right about the robots. I mean, don't forget Trump literally told people in Lordstown, Ohio, to not sell your houses because they're going to save the GM plant. They obviously did not. That plant got shut down. But it's not just the factories and the manufacturers. It's the farmers. We talked about it a couple weeks ago on the show. The farmers got screwed over by the tariffs in Trump's first term. They had to be bailed out with taxpayer dollars, $28 billion on that front. They still voted for Trump this time around for a second term. And now they're all gearing up to be screwed over by the tariffs again. And it's not just the tariffs, Cena, we covered it. The USAID, who produces all that food that we send abroad? American farmers. Now they're talking about cutting SNAP benefits, aka food stamps. Who produces all that food for the government to feed the poor people in this country? American farmers. So they are about to take a huge hit, and it goes beyond just the factories. It goes to the fields too.
I mean,
I love it.
Seriously, I mean, you guys can't, I come from, ranching stock, farming and ranching. You guys can't imagine how expensive farm equipment already is.
Oh,
but it's getting...
Every time I read an article about some farmer buying like a $350,000 piece of machinery.
Like tractors can go to the millions now. Yeah.
It's insane. They're all these farmers run on debt.
Oh, yes. Yes, they do.
All debt finance.
They do. God, you have no idea how much they do.
Like, I thought having $300,000 in student and law school loans, I was like, I can carry any amount of debt. And like these farmers wake up on like Monday, they're like, I'm $62 million in debt. I hope these strawberries don't fail me now.
Oh, no. Farming in this country is fucked beyond. Now I'm doing it.
No, it's fine. I mean, it was just, it's a nice to have to try to, whatever.
Farmers in this country, they don't know how it's done anymore. I mean, it's yet another one of these American industries where no one knows how anything is done anymore. Yeah. No one knows how anything is supposed to work. No one knows how you're supposed to get ahead. No one even knows how to keep their heads above water. We're absolutely in a transitional period in human history, and definitely in modern world history, where just people don't have any idea where we are. Like the end of history was definitely a myth. Like maybe we were at the nearing, back in the 90s, they said, we're at the end of history. I think we're now at the beginning of a new epoch that we don't know what it's gonna look like at all.
The mix of globalization and technological revolution and innovation that has happened over the last 30 years. So globalization destroying, a huge swath, now creating the Rust Belt, and then that technological innovation creating productivity. So then that wealth gap starts to increase dramatically.
Yeah.
But it leaves behind all those workers that had lost their jobs. And both political parties never really communicated to constituents that, hey, the reason you get a cheap good at Walmart is because of globalization.
Yeah.
And yes, you may not be working, but technically, if you do get this kind of a job, you'll be more productive and you can make more money. But that conversation never happened.
No.
And it has not happened yet. And now we're in a place where all that resentment that's built up over the wealth gap, over globalization, has now come to bear. Mm-hmm. And the people that are carrying the mantle for workers in America right now are the right, and apparently Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing the "We Told You So" tour.
Yeah.
And I welcome them to my home. I'll cook you dinner because I am with you 110%. It's like we were trying to say to everybody, and Chris Murphy, I even saw him on TV saying, we pushed Bernie out. That wasn't a good idea. We should have done that. I'm like, what the fuck? Come on!
Oh. The Democrats letting the working class slip through their fingers, to the point where now the working class believes that unions are evil, is insane to me. How they never thought that this would ever happen. Again, it comes back to what's your strategy, what's your plan. The Democrats, I don't believe They very obviously didn't have a plan. They didn't even have a fucking plan for Biden's too old.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even have that plan.
He's not too old. He's fine. He's fine.
They didn't even have a plan for that. and they still don't have a plan now of like how are they going to get back the working class of America, and has that ship sailed?
Yeah.
Like, is the Democratic Party a permanently toxic brand to the American working class at this point? Like, is the American working class just convinced that Republicans are the only ones to save them, even though they've seen time after again, as Travis said, the farmers saw, all of these tariffs in Trump's first term, and yet they still see him as some sort of savior. They see him as like this, golden daddy is going to come down and save us all.
Daddy.
And because there's nobody on the left, there's nobody in the Democratic Party, at least that the Democratic Party is willing to push.
The leadership.
The leadership's willing to put to the forefront. It's the working class of America is not going to respond to people like Nancy Pelosi. Like, they're not going to, like, the working class of America doesn't give a fuck about Dianne Feinstein. Yeah. Like people like her, because Dianne Feinstein spent all of her time in San Francisco marrying real estate developers so she could raise the rents and ruin San Francisco and make sure, like, she's part of the reason why we have such a huge problem with homeless people in San Francisco today is because of all the shit that Dianne Feinstein and people like her, all these fucking neoliberals, were doing back in the late 70s, that were just destroying the working class, not just in the rural areas, but in the cities as well. Like, the Democrats have been cannibalizing themselves. They've been fucking over their constituents for decades now, and now they're turning around and asking, why aren't these people voting for us? Why aren't these people coming to our side? And it's because, well, first of all, you fucked them over, and second of all, the Republicans are much better liars than you are.
Yeah.
And they are much better at bringing up the passion within you, within the constituents, to make them come out to the polls, and vote.
All right. Well, let me just say, I love that riff. I want everyone to remember Marcus is an incredible political mind, and I'm happy to have you talking politics again. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about, I know your favorite subject, SignalGate, and Travis's favorite person, JD Vance. I'm Cena Gasly, Marcus Parks, and Travis Irvine in the virtual studio. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. I'm Cena Gasly. This is the Foreign Report. We just talked about, oh, sweet Jesus, so much stuff. Flooding the zone, with Steve Bannon, tariffs, what happened to the Dems, what is going to happen to the Dems, what happened to America. This is a global show, so we do want to talk. I mean, America is in everything. Yeah. America is around the world. We talked a lot about this stuff, but I wanted to just bring up SignalGate again. And the main reason we're bringing it up is, one, we didn't get to cover as much as I wanted to last time. There's still more to like dig into there. And two, they all think it's going to go away.
No.
And I tell you what.
No.
The number one show on Last Podcast Network isn't going to let this go away.
And that's why you're number one.
That's why we're number one. All 250 million people that listen and download this show every week. Okay, all 6 YouTube comments that are very mean to me. I see you. Okay. SignalGate. There's some stuff I wanted to just talk about with SignalGate that we didn't get to. One important thing. Well, actually, before I actually get into like this little rundown, what was your take on SignalGate? How did you feel about this whole thing, watching it all unfold? Because I don't even think we chit-chatted about this while it was happening.
All right, here's my thing about SignalGate. Is politics, for many years, politics and government, it was the realm of nerds.
Yes,
I
agree.
You know, I know a lot of you politicos, like, you like to think you're cool, you're not. I'm sorry, but you're not.
I was happy in the nerd corner talking politics.
I know some of you are very attractive. I know you are, but guess what? I'm sorry. Politics and government, it's fucking nerdy, and it was you know, run by nerds and talked about by nerds.
It's supposed to be boring.
It's supposed to be boring for so long, but reading the SignalGate text messages, like reading their little group chat, you know, like reading through and what, you know, and also just looking at how, you know, these people have sort of like played out over the last 6-8 months, year. Government is now the realm of losers. Like that's it. These people, they talk like losers.
Yeah.
Like they whine like losers.
Yeah.
God, they whine so fucking much.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's no thought behind it. There's no the nerdiness. I can feel the nerdiness like going away.
Yeah, fading into the ether.
Yeah, fading into the ether, and it's like, and it's this realm of like it's losers, and that's what I saw in the signal, because that's the other thing too, is that losers fuck up a lot. And how can you fuck up this badly? The other thing that I noticed in reading, their text messages is that it was confirmed that they believe their own bullshit.
Yes,
they believe
that was a big thing for me as well.
That was a huge thing for me, is like reading about them whining about why can't Europe take care of themselves?
Yeah,
like them whining about,
which is our big critique of the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
is that if we saw their text messages, it would probably say the exact opposite of what they're saying publicly.
Yeah.
The one thing these losers are doing is consistency in how they are speaking privately and publicly, which is also somewhat terrifying.
Yeah, it is. No, that is absolutely terrifying, because I kind of always had it in the back of my mind that's like, well, maybe they're just, saying these things publicly and this isn't what they really believe. And, we're being manipulated because that's how we're used to politics being, because we're used to nerds being in charge. We're used to being much smarter people being in charge.
Yeah.
And that's not the case at all. They believe it. They believe in their bullshit. They believe that what they're doing is righteous. They believe that it is God-given. They believe that, like JD Vance, I'll say a prayer for you. And
oh, boy.
And they are bloodthirsty. The way they came back from that, the way Hesketh texts his updates, like point by like moment by moment, I can feel him rubbing his little dick like the whole time. Like I can see it. I can feel his little hard on coming through during all of that. And it is it's terrifying, to see that there is like it feels very fascist. The whole thing feels very fascist, like the way that they talk and the way the whole thing is worked out, and the way that they're now saying, no, there's no problem with it. Nothing, forget about it. It's fine. Like going for, like just fucking marching forward.
Incompetent fascism.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
And the speaking of like the righteousness that you were talking about with them, that allowed them to also do something awful. And forget even the security breaches. They tracked this Houthi terrorist, their quote top missile guy, and no one says he wasn't a terrorist by any means. Okay, but they tracked him to his girlfriend's apartment, and there's a few things I want to like talk about when it comes to SignalGate here, right? But they tracked him into the building, and then they blew up the whole building.
Yeah, and we're happy about it.
And so they were, fist flame USA emoji, okay? And was this a terrorist? By the way, was this a terrorist compound where some Top Gun style jets had to evade detection to send the final payload? No, they killed 31 people, mostly women and children.
Yeah.
Okay?
Jeez.
So let's be real. America does this quite a bit.
Been doing it for decades.
The war on terror especially somehow made this okay.
We're numb to it.
And exactly. And we briefly mentioned this last episode, Travis, I think, but I wanted to bring it up again. And assassinating one guy by leveling a civilian building, it's a bit of a Geneva Convention problem.
It's a war crime.
Yeah. It's a light.
Yeah. Yep.
Light work, a side of war crime. And then there's other people that have been talking about how secret the information was, and I think we know, but there was this great Blue Sky post, and if new producer Danielle could show, oh, thank you. So on the video here is, and you'll see it on the YouTube channel, but check out So basically there's two columns here. The person's putting up the text messages from Pete Hegseth. I'm going to try to do this as best I can for the audio listeners out there. And on the right-hand side is basically the classifications of how you should be classifying information from the DoD. And the date and time of the mission, okay, that should be classified as secret. Timelines and schedules, that should be classified as secret. The concept of operations, including order of battle, execution circumstances, operation locations, resources required, tactical maneuvers, deployment actions, and objectives, also secret. And then he posts it right next to all of Pete Hegseth putting up into the Signal chat. So that is like at a very base level. If you are trained in the DoD, you are getting that very clearly explained to you.
Yeah, but Hesketh's not trained at the DoD.
Marcus!
He's not
Fist
trained
emoji,
at the
flame
fucking...
emoji, flag.
That's the whole fucking problem here. Incompetent. I mean, that's the thing. It's incompetence.
It's such incompetence. It's unreal.
I mean, you can't expect him to know. Like, that's the problem, though. Is that you can't expect him to know all these fucking rules.
No,
like, because he shouldn't have the job in the first place.
Yeah, I like you almost gave him an out there. You can't expect him to know all these rules. You can't expect an idiot like that to know everything.
There's some dickhead on the right-wing equivalent of this podcast right now making that exact same argument, but he's ending it in a much different way. Like, he's like, you got to give him time to learn. You got to give him time to figure these things out. Everyone has a probationary period at work, where you just still figure out, your, ins and outs, your P's and Q's.
It hasn't even been 100 days yet.
Yeah. Oh my God, it hasn't. It's been, 74?
74, yeah. Oh, God. And so those are the first two. The other one I want to talk about is the Federal Records Act. And we talked about how much that's important. We had a compliance guy on last time to talk a little bit about that. But I found this thing from ProPublica. And there was this rumor going around that Project 2025 told everyone to use Signal to evade detection. Mm-hmm. And I was like, let me find out about this. Let me do some digging about this. And that's not true. There was actually this training video by the Project 2025 people called the Presidential Administration Academy. Basically, their concept was once you get into office day one, watch these training videos on how to properly execute the vision of Project 2025. And mind you, I have read parts of Project 2025. I searched through it. There's no part where it says use Signal to evade detection. Okay? Yeah. But
detection from who?
From federal records, right? So that's the idea, right? Okay. And so there are these two guys, Mike Howell and Michael Ding, and both of whom are listed as contributors for Project 2025. And they discuss in this training video that was obtained by ProPublica and documented whether Signal chats count as records. And just listen. So this is a training video. I'm so excited. Go ahead, play the clip, please.
Michael, what are other records? Do Signal chats count as records?
Yeah, so that's where things get really tricky as a political appointee, especially for those who've never worked in federal government before. There's plenty of apps and other messaging platforms out there, whether it's deleting messages, encrypted communications, or whatnot. But all the agencies under the federal government are governed by certain records retentions policies. So you have to be careful with whatever agency you're working at, that you're following those policies. That's another way that political appointees get into trouble sometimes, is they're using these encrypted chat platforms or self-deleting messages, and they are, in some sense, violating the law by...
Oh! What?
Yeah.
Wow.
What? Michael, whoa. Ding! Ding! Ding!
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. He said the quiet part out loud.
I love it. These guys didn't even watch the training video.
Of course not.
This made my day. They're violating the law.
Yeah,
that's it, buddy.
My God, and you look at these people. Travis mentioned it. Say it again, Travis.
These people look exactly how you would expect Project 2025 people to look. Giant thumbs with front come-overs? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like Michael Dingham looks like he's wearing a toupee.
Yeah.
Like, they are losers. They're
Big
all
time.
fucking losers.
Yeah. It is unreal. That blew me away. Just when because I really wanted Project 2025 to say use Signal Chat to evade federal records detection. But it is a chef's kiss emoji. The fact that they literally said, absolutely don't do this, guys.
Yeah.
This would be really bad for you to do.
Yeah, it's illegal.
It would be definitely illegal.
But it also comes back to the point of, like, what does illegal mean if there's nobody around to prosecute it?
Oh my God, did you just tree fall in a forest? That's fucking,
I mean, does it matter? Does it matter if there's does it matter if they do illegal shit if nobody is willing to prosecute the illegalities?
They were using their Gmails apparently too.
Yeah.
They just came out. This is why we're going to keep talking, because more and more of this is going to start coming out. And by the way, they just added Jeffrey Goldberg to one Signal Chat, and they said that his information was sucked in.
His number was sucked in somehow.
Man.
Maybe if you're using a fucking program that sucks in the phone numbers of random people on your contact list, you probably shouldn't be using that program to discuss classified information on terrorist attacks.
All right, and I want to just talk really quickly about the fourth kind of like huge issue that is happening with SignalGate, and that's the hacks that have been happening over the last 6 months, and the cyber war. We've talked about cyber warfare on the show before, but before they got into office, the Chinese government had sponsored basically this thing called Salt Typhoon that attacked a bunch of networks that were like telecom networks, and those potentially, what people think, permeated J.D. Vance's and Trump's phone before they got into office. Yeah. So that's one thing. So the telecom networks, they get in there. The other thing that is really interesting is this piece of malware, this espionage tool, made by an Israeli private company called Pegasus. And it's produced and sold by them, which means they sold it on the open market. It's not like you could go on Amazon and get it, but they sold it to people, and it's a zero-click exploit, which I didn't know existed. I always thought you had to like click a phishing email or like your UPS package is late, so click on this link and that's how something gets in there. But the zero-click exploit means they can just install it on your phone. And what it does is it exploits iMessage and WhatsApp, and it infiltrates your device. Now, here's the thing. They say Signal is end-to-end encrypted. End to end. But if you're at the end, if you've encrypted the end, the in-between doesn't really matter anymore.
Yep.
So someone could have been sitting on any one of these personal phones of people and seen everything, because once you're in the phone, you're in. And Pegasus is classified as a cyber weapon. And do you know who potentially, we have it on somewhat high authority, I can't share, but that the Saudi government paid $25 million to get Pegasus. And so the Saudis have this thing, and they could be using it for whatever, weird stuff they want to be using it for. So these are the risks that were prevalent at the moment, and all the moments that Genius Waltz and all of these other national security people were subjecting us to. Other countries that have used Pegasus, Hungary, India, El Salvador, Poland, Colombia, Spain, Mexico, the UAE, Morocco, Rwanda.
I mean, who knows how many high-level conversations were had on Signal? Like, this is just one where, a reporter just happened to get sucked into. This is probably one conversation amongst hundreds.
Why would he say sucked into? Why would he say that? Why would he use those words?
Sucked into.
This is the other. We're in the the Gen Xers are now the leaders in government, and we gotta remember they don't know how to use technology either. They really were like in college when this stuff happened,
Right.
So like they're kind of late to the game here.
Yeah.
You know,
they definitely don't have the knowledge of us millennials. Us
God.
genius millennials.
Oh, the Z's, they're coming too.
Well, geopolitically, this has so many more consequences than just being, making us look incompetent. People are going to stop telling us stuff.
Yes.
Like other countries are going to stop telling us high-level information. They're going to stop sharing high-level information. And the biggest problem is that we're not going to know when they do that. We're not going to know the moment that Germany stops letting us know what their intelligence services have found out.
And you know how I know that's true? Because the UK said, we're going to continue to share intelligence with the United States. So just the fact that they're saying that really means that other people have been saying, we're not sharing intelligence with the United States anymore. And the UK felt, felt motivated to be like, okay, well, if everyone else is not going to share, we should I don't want them to really get upset about this.
Yeah.
We'll share some stuff.
But you're also going to have, if the UK is sharing stuff with us, that's going to affect them too. Because do you think Germany is going to, or France or Spain or Saudi Arabia or whoever is going to share information with the UK if they know that UK is just going to turn around and just share it with us?
Listen, Keir Starmer, don't share it with the US.
I know.
Okay, don't do it.
It is. It's the gossip problem. That is where we're at right now. We're at the point now where no one's wanting to tell America their business because America can't keep her fucking mouth shut. Because America is not a lockbox anymore. It's going to be easy to find out information from us.
I've heard so many stories of people.
America's become the page 7 of the geopolitical world. Can't keep a lid on it.
Yeah. Loose lips sink ships, ladies and gentlemen.
The number of I've seen so many people in government, previous administrations, and even in Trump's first term, that have talked about how intense it was to learn all the security protocols.
Yeah.
And how annoying it was. And then you're like, oh, okay, this is why.
Yeah.
This is why.
Yep.
This is why. All right. Well, Travis, I wanted to give you your special moment to talk about your favorite person. Usually you have a JD Vance poster up behind you, but I guess it's not.
It's covered with stains this week. That's how much I love him.
Everyone hates JD's segment. Go for it.
Yes, well, it ties right into SignalGate and everything we've just been talking about, and I appreciate that we're still talking about it because here's the thing, Cena. MAGA World also can't stop talking about their biggest scandal from SignalGate, and that is that JD Vance could be working against President Trump without Trump knowing about it. Yes, so MAGA World is all in a tiff right now because, as Vance wrote in the now public Signal chat, I think we are making a mistake, referring to the bombing of the Houthis. I am not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. So this is the thing. Right now, MAGA World is fighting about if JD Vance is truly on Trump's side, because what happened then in that chat was that Stephen Miller said that Trump is in the loop and he is all on board with bombing the Houthis, but this goes against the MAGA mentality of America first. So therefore, any military action that benefits Europe or any of our quote unquote allies is against Trump's philosophy. So now the debate is JD Vance working against Trump or is he working against the neocons in Trump's cabinet? Either way, this means both sides of MAGA World are fighting with each other about who hates JD Vance more, and that is good for America.
That's everyone hates JD's segment. We got to make like a sound drop. We got to get a good audio.
Or everybody hates JD.
Awesome. Travis, do you have any? I know you're in the virtual studio, so it's hard to chime in sometimes. Did you have any other closing thoughts on everything we talked about?
Well, I wanted to chime in, kind of bring it full circle. Christine O'Donnell, 15 years ago, Marcus. I'm not a witch. I'm like you. I'm a person. She has not been heard of since, which I truly respect. Her political career is over. And then just like clockwork, everyone, I got another new text from Cory Booker.
I think you're on too many texts. You're signed up
brother,
too many places.
Brother, I never signed up. I never signed up.
None of us ever signed up. We gave money to something once. And it's just one after another, and God damn it, like I cannot. It's not just the frequency of the text; it's the tone of the text. It's just so weak.
So weak.
The tone of the text is so weak. I don't know who they're trying to go for.
Why do I care about your fundraising goal?
Yeah,
that's nice. You know, I couldn't think of Christine O'Donnell because I got the name Christine Chubbuck stuck in my head, but no, Christine Chubbuck was the woman who died by suicide live on television.
Oh,
she was a news person.
Oh, right.
That one.
Oh, Jesus.
That's a different...
On that note, definitely getting the E on this show.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
I mean,
It's just,
no.
I shouldn't have brought it up. I'm sorry.
That's the first piece of good news we've talked about this entire show, Marcus, so I appreciate it.
Marcus Parks. Give me one thing you're optimistic about. It could be personal.
You know, I figured out how to, put together this Montauk Project episode we got coming up on last podcast. So
Nice.
That's really nice.
Great.
As far as optimism goes, the only thing that I've got is, I think that the Republicans might run out of steam at some point. Like I think they might start cannibalizing each other at some point. Looking back at the previous administration, like you can see that it did eventually settle into background chaos at one point. With horrible shit still happening all the time. But the problem also is that background chaos also resulted in COVID, and it resulted in the terrible handling of that, of which, I personally, suffered from. I've had long COVID for 2.5 years, because of the mishandling of the last administration. So it's not that these things do have very real effects on people. I just hope that this time the effects won't be so catastrophic.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I'm hoping for, but I see a lot of bullshit, and I see a lot of really scary things happening. I mean, we didn't even talk about the El Salvador stuff, you know, like the terrifying nature of that. Like there's a lot going on right now. It's hard to, I don't think that I'm going to have optimism until the Democrats step up. Until there's somebody on their side steps up and starts leading, for fuck's sake. Because talking for 25 hours, is not leading. That's a stunt. Like we need ideas, we need plans, we need strategies, we need some sort of goal at the end of the day. Something that is not just, I'm not Trump. Something that's not just, I'm not J.D. Vance. Something that can actually give people something to hold on to. Something that average Americans can actually hold on to and say, I like that idea. And I like that person. I like what that person has to say. And until that happens, optimism is going to be pretty fucking low in my corner.
I hear you on that. I agree. Mm-hmm. The antithesis of the right is not a political party or a political platform. We should be talking about Medicare for all. We should be talking about real jobs for people. We should be talking about curbing how big tech is destroying the very fundamentals of our economy.
We should be talking about housing.
Yeah. And getting people a place to live. Travis?
In the words of J.D. Vance, I'll say a prayer for victory.
Oh, thank you. Marcus Parks, I'm Sina Ghaznavi, Travis Irvine, the Foreign Report LPN at gmail.com if you've got a question. I know people keep sending questions. We will get to your questions, I promise. I'm just waiting for the news to slow down, which might mean 2027 or 8 to get to your questions. Again, thank you so much for listening. Seriously, thank you.
Dude, thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you,
thank you for giving us a show to play and to talk about this stuff. We love it. Thank you.
Of course, I support.
We'll see you guys next time.